Katika jitihada za kuhakikisha kuwa tatizo la mrundiko wa kesi ambalo limeathiri kupatikana kwa haki, idara ya mahakama sasa inapendekeza kubuniwa kwa muundo ambao utatoa suluhu. Kulingana na kamati hiyo ambayo inashughulikia muundo mbadala, zaidi ya asilimia 90 ya kesi katika mahakama zinaweza kutatuliwa kupitia muundo huu. Kando na muundo mbadala wa kusuluhisha migogoro kusaidia nyingi ya kesi, kamati hiyo inaamini kuwa hatua hii ipo katika katiba. Kulingana na mwenyekiti wa kamati hiyo Joel Ngugi, asilimia 79 wa Kenya wengi wanapendelea kusuluhisha kesi zao nje ya mahakama.
So definitely, I talked about the fact that it's expeditious and quicker as one of the advantages. It is definitely faster because cases that are decided at the AJS, I mean, there are no adjournments, there are no mention dates. I mean, you go and your case is resolved, most likely the same day. I mean, it will be a rare day that a case that is in the AJS spills over to the second day. There are few that do so, maybe when they need to call someone who is not present on that day and so forth, but most of them are decided right there and then on the same day. So yeah, it's a very expeditious way of deciding cases, and once cases are referred there from the court system, then of course that case will be resolved.
Ngugi ametaja kuwa muundo huo kama mojawapo ya njia rahisi na nafuu ukilinganishwa na mahakama ambayo kesi huchukua zaidi ya miaka 3 kusuluhishwa.
It is cheaper, of course. You don't have filing fees, you don't have lawyers' fees and so forth. It is faster. You don't have your case parked in the court for years. It takes roughly about 3 years to 4 years to determine a case in Kenya, even in the magistrate's court. In the AJS system, that's a case that will be decided in a day or two, and so forth.
Ukosefu wa mahakama ya kutosha kote nchini kumeathiri kutolewa kwa haki kwa muda mfupi. Kulingana na Ngugi, kuna mahakama 126 kote nchini dhidi ya kaunti ndogo 290, hii ikiwa tatizo kubwa kwa kesi zilizo mahakamani.
The aim of the judiciary is to build a court in each of the 290 sub-counties. We are not yet there. We have about courts in about 126 sub-counties. So you can count how long it will take for us to have one court in each sub-county. And you can imagine how long it takes to access one court in the center of the sub-county for most Kenyans. So alternative justice systems are a more physically accessible way of accessing justice for most Kenyans because they happen where they live. They happen in the village, they happen in their environs.
Ngugi hata hivyo amesema kuwa si kesi zote ambazo zinaweza kusuluhishwa na muundo huo wanao upendekeza.
Justice Needs Survey commissioned by the judiciary says that AJS is 79% popular. So only 21% of cases are actually resolved in courts and 79% are resolved elsewhere.
Ngugi akitaja kesi kama vile dhulma za kijinsia ambazo zinahitaji kutafsiriwa katika katiba.
There's one thing that we must say very, very clearly. Defilement cases cannot be heard in AJS. Okay? We need to make that very clear. And you need to make it very clear to your listeners and to everybody who reaches. Defilement cases are not appropriate for AJS. So the way I think communities need to understand is the Constitution now recognizes that there are forms of dispute resolution, there are forms of justice are valid, but gives them limitations and conditions. So one of the conditions is that you only have to do what is permitted. And so it's a trade-off. The Constitution and the law will accept your dispute resolution mechanisms, but you must abide by the Constitution. And abiding by the Constitution means that those cases that should not be heard in the AJS system should not be heard there. And defilement is categorically one of those cases that cannot and must not be heard in an AJS system.
Naibu mwenyekiti wa kamati hiyo Steve Ouma amewataka Wakenya kuunga mkono mfumo huo jinsi ilivyo katika katiba kufanikisha utendakazi wake.
And essentially what we do is to invite all Kenyans to support the route that they have chosen, which is a route of resolving their matters out of court. But the Constitution gives a bit of guidance that yes, do it where you want to do it how you've been doing it, but ensure that you adhere to certain principles of human rights, inclusivity, non-discrimination, and that the kind of justice that you provide in those sites are not inferior or poor justice. They are justice that meet the threshold of the entire idea of justice in the Constitution, that promotes human dignity, promotes progress, and indeed contributes to our transformation agenda.
Katibu mtendaji wa huduma ya wote Flora Mbadala amesema kuwa ana imani mfumo huo utapunguza mrundikano wa kesi mahakamani.
We also have a role to reduce the number of matters that are going to court when there is an alternative way of addressing these issues. AJS is a system that we feel is being used and it needs to be enhanced, and where necessary, apply AJS in the absence of having to go to court.